What if the things you threw away could bring your garden to life? Welcome to Mind Over Decoration, a channel where old junk finds new meaning. In today's video, we're diving into creative, real-world ideas for turning trash into garden treasures. Think buckets, bottles, tires, transformed into charming decor for your yard, patio, or fence. Timestamps are available, so feel free to jump to the ideas that speak to you. Got questions? Drop them in the comments. And if something sparks your imagination, don't wait, try it. Build it. Make it yours. This may look like just another DIY video, but behind each frame is a family doing their best to create something meaningful. When you like, comment, or subscribe, you're not just clicking a button. You're keeping this dream alive. Thanks for being here. Thanks for believing in what we're building. In the soft hush of a garden where carrots press against warm soil and daisies open their white arms to the sun, something unexpected stands guard. Whimsical figures with wide eyes and wild hair made from old rope, their faces painted with joy, mischief, or surprise. These aren't store-bought ornaments, and that's precisely the point. Each troll is born from something forgotten: rusty buckets, faded twine, scraps of burlap, and brought back to life with humor and care. Their charm lies not just in the color or exaggerated expressions, but in the way they animate a small path or nestle among lettuce leaves like garden companions. One grins proudly between rows of mint and tomatoes, its bottle cap eyes gleaming under soft rain. Another huddles near the nasturtiums, red-cheeked and wide-mouthed, as if gasping at a bee buzzing too close. Beneath a pergola tangled with flowering vines, three bucket trolls peek out like children in hiding. You can almost imagine them whispering to each other in rustling leaves, watching over the herbs in pots below with painted patience. And this is where the beauty begins, not in perfection, but in play. You don't need expensive tools or elaborate materials. An old metal bucket, a handful of leftover paint, a bit of rope unraveled from the corner of your garage, and a spark of imagination. What you create isn't just decor. It's presence. It's laughter waiting in the lettuce. In a world that throws away too easily, this kind of DIY brings things home again. Try it for your own tiny yard, your patio corner, or beside a row of beans. Make one troll, or three. Give them names. Let your garden speak not only in flowers, but in faces. In the quiet corners of sunlit patios and narrow backyard paths, A line of characters dangles gently from above, silent observers with wide eyes, painted mustaches, and a hint of charm in every curl of their smile. Once forgotten jugs, now transformed into cheerful companions, they swing from rustic pergolas like a cast of garden jesters dressed in pastel and play. Each jug is different. One winks knowingly from beneath a crown of purple petunias. Another dons a monocle, trailing time like sideburns in the breeze. There's one with a painted bowler hat, slightly askew, letting strawberry vines spill from beneath his grin. These aren't just planters, they're personalities. They bring humor to the space, breaking the monotony of wooden structures with painted surprise and animated warmth. The way the light moves through the leaves above, dancing over their faces and bouncing off the gloss of their colors, gives the whole corner of the garden a theatrical feel, as if the patio were a little stage, and the show is joy. What makes them special isn't the paint or the plants alone, but the balance between the two. A few jugs bloom with trailing nasturtiums, their bright orange flowers cascading like wild beards. Others cradle soft herbs, oregano, mint, basil, that brush your shoulder when you walk under them. You catch their scent, then you smile back at the face that holds them. This is DIY at its most playful and purposeful. All it takes is a jug, a hook, a little rope, and a sense of humor. Whether you're working with a narrow patio, a trellis archway, or just the desire to make something out of nothing, these hanging characters remind us that gardens don't need to be serious. They just need to be loved. Sometimes, the path through a garden needs more than flowers. It needs a story, one told in rubber, rust, and the shape of a creature crawling low to the earth. These lizard guardians, stitched together from old tires and scraps, stretch their painted backs along tight garden walkways like sentinels watching the soil. Each one carries its own personality. One is coiled slightly in an S-shape, scales brushed in two tones of green, with bottle cap eyes that stare just enough to make you smile. Another stretches long and lean beside a gravel trail, tongue curled playfully from its mouth, legs fashioned from bent spoons glinting silver in the sun. And then there's the one crowned with succulents, tiny bursts of green and pink that grow along its spine like proud armor. Placed beside a narrow brick path, it doesn't just decorate, it surprises, peeking from behind potted herbs or casting long shadows at sunset. The joy of these creatures isn't just in their charm. It's in the invitation to look again at what we discard. A tire becomes a tail. A bolt becomes an eye. Spoon handles turn into claws, and suddenly, the path isn't just a way through the garden, it's alive. Building one doesn't require fancy tools or a workshop. It only asks for time, paint, and a little wonder. These lizard sculptures aren't fragile. They're solid, playful, and ready to endure weather and time. Whether you live in a quiet countryside or a busy backyard in the suburbs, they bring a wild spark to a narrow path. Let your garden tell stories that children can follow and guests can discover. Let it whisper with the curve of a painted tail and the grin of something that used to be thrown away. In a garden where vegetables rise like quiet songs from the soil, you'll find a chorus of unlikely guardians, cheerful scarecrows crafted not from straw and sticks, but from old metal buckets. Each face is painted with a different emotion, some grinning wide, others sleepy-eyed, one sporting a wild yellow hue and a thick blue mustache. And somehow, it works. It feels alive, playful, a gentle nudge reminding us that even trash can wear a smile. The first of these garden sentinels stands with open arms, literally. Bamboo rods poke through either side of its galvanized belly, each gloved hand stretched out as if welcoming anyone who passes. A straw hat tilts jauntily above painted cheeks, watching over rows of cabbages and radishes like a sun-baked uncle who spent the whole afternoon in the field. It's simple, but it's art. And it works. Just across the path, a trio of bucket heads line the garden like a gallery of emotions, joyful, silly, even a little grumpy. They're planted beside neat rows of carrots, parsley, and golden zucchini. The sun brushes everything in soft amber light, making the metal shine just enough to catch your eye, but not enough to overpower the beauty of the vegetables below. There's a shovel resting nearby, as if the garden just paused for a breath. And in the middle of it all, there's one figure that stands out, a rust-flecked bucket man with wild grass for hair and a spark of mischief in his bright yellow face. He watches over lettuce and onions, smiling as vines slowly climb the trellis behind him. He doesn't speak, but his presence says it all. You can grow joy from anything, even scraps. So if you're dreaming of your own garden, don't start with what you lack. Start with what you've got. An old bucket. Some leftover paint. A glove without a pair. That's all it takes to bring a little whimsy to your plot. And maybe, just maybe, to make your vegetables feel like someone's watching over them with love. Some gardens grow vegetables. Others grow laughter. In this warm and wobbly patch of soil, someone decided to break the mold, literally, by transforming discarded plastic bottles into a tribe of cheerful guardians. Each bottlehead scarecrow grins or smirks from its humble perch, proudly watching over rows of beans, tomatoes, or kale like mismatched sentinels at a garden parade. In the first scene, we meet a lone character, simple, shy, but impossible to ignore. Its face, painted lovingly with a crooked wink and toothy grin, is framed with hair made from plastic bottlenecks painted fire red, tumbling like a rebellious mop over its rounded crown. It's mounted to a weathered post wrapped in bean vines, blending purpose with play. This isn't just decoration, it's protection. Soft, humorous defense against garden pests and gloom alike. Behind it, the sunflowers nod in approval, and old garden tools lean nearby, forgotten but not unimportant. Widen the view and you'll discover a full row of them, each scarecrow a character, each face unique. There's joy in their eyes, slyness in their smirks, and an invitation in their rainbow-colored hair, which flickers and dances with the breeze like carnival streamers. Some wear hats made of straw. Others wear expressions that suggest they've seen things, like a brave tomato harvest or a squirrel's failed heist. Together, they stand along the fence line, not to guard but to welcome, to remind every passerby that gardens are living galleries, and that trash, when given time and imagination, becomes legacy. Closer still, there's one with blue eyes and spiraled pigtails, made from tightly curled strips of old bottles. Another wears bright pink dreadlocks. They are not placed perfectly, but maybe that's the point. The irregularity becomes charm, the chaos becomes pattern, and the garden, well, it becomes a place worth smiling at. There's a sign near the gate that simply says, "Grow happy." And maybe that's all this is, a reminder that creativity doesn't require wealth, only wonder. That even the discarded things, plastic bottles, broken rakes, odd planks, can be turned into something delightful, useful, and strangely comforting. So if you've got a fence, a few screws, and some bottles waiting to be rescued from the bin, you're halfway there. What you grow is up to you. But don't forget to give it a face. There's a kind of happiness that doesn't shout, but sings quietly along the garden fence, in tiny shards of color, in bottle caps reborn as butterflies, frogs, and dragonflies. Here, old plastic bottles have shed their forgettable past and become joyful guardians of backyard magic. Take the lizard. Its playful form is assembled from bottle shards in emerald green, sunflower yellow, and ocean blue, each piece imperfect, yet full of life. Like a child's chalk drawing made permanent, it clings to the fence with its wide, goofy eyes made from layered caps, while marigolds at its feet glow like lanterns. There's no artifice here, only joy, raw, recyclable joy. Then look left. A dragonfly stretches its translucent wings across a slatted wood wall, with a body formed from a green soda bottle cut into graceful segments. The wings shimmer in purples, pinks, and teals, colors no insect ever wore, but somehow this one does. It watches quietly over a tangle of pea vines, rooted below. The message is simple: beauty can be found in what was once thrown away, if only we look again. At the far edge of the fence, a caterpillar made from rainbow bottle caps weaves its way along the grain of the wood. Each cap is different, some chipped, some sun-faded, but together, they form something delightful. It's a slow and steady parade of color, wriggling above a bed of kale and calendula like a child's dream sketched in recycled ink. And beyond that, a garden wall blooms with more than plants: butterflies in stained glass bottle hues, beetles with mosaic armor, frogs frozen mid-leap, all dancing above a carpet of time. Sunlight filters through the bottle pieces, casting kaleidoscope shadows onto the mulch. It's a living gallery for anyone walking the garden path. This isn't just decor. It's proof that something broken can be reshaped into joy. And maybe that's the whole point, to take what the world calls trash and, with a bit of heart and time, let it flutter again. As twilight begins its quiet descent, there's a soft golden hush that settles over this garden path, not from the sun, but from a whimsical parade of glowing eyes made from trash, reborn into magic. Old plastic bottles and colored glass now hang like stilled fireflies from bent bamboo ribs, their hollow eyes casting soft circles of light along a gravel walkway that seems to whisper, "Come closer." Each bottle holds its own quiet personality, some painted in playful colors, others left to their raw translucent charm. Their eyes, carefully carved or melted through the surface, glow with a warmth that's both eerie and welcoming. With the help of simple solar LEDs or candles, even the most common bottle can become a companion of the night. When the wind shifts, the bottles clink gently, not unlike a soft laugh shared among old friends. Look closer and you'll find the smallest touches that make this installation feel personal. A green bottle with faded strokes of paint, nestled among rosemary and bee balm, glowing like it remembers a story. Or a row of silly expressions etched into colored glass, a parade of lanterns with cartoon faces, giving smiles to the spinach and thyme growing underneath. There is humor here, and also craft. The ropes that bind each bottle to its bamboo arch are tied with care, weathered by sun and season. This isn't just garden lighting. It's a recycled theater of light, a gallery of laughter and quiet reflection shaped from waste. You can make this too. Save what you would throw away. Cut it with intention. Paint it with feeling. Let your garden speak in silhouettes and glow with joy, one bottle, one beam of light, one story at a time. There's something quietly magical about a garden where rust meets whimsy, where forgotten pots find their second breath not in the trash, but in a hush beneath lavender and thyme. Here in the cool shadows of a clipped hedge or the arms of leafy herbs, rusty terracotta pots have been gently coaxed into little garden spirits, sleepy-eyed fairies, curious gnome cottages, and winged creatures who never ask for attention, yet bring it all the same. One pot, its glaze faded by time, wears a painted face with eyes gently closed as if lost in midsummer dreams. Moss curls around the rim like hair, tucked with tiny blossoms and shaded by the soft swaying lavender above. The rust becomes its character, not a flaw, but a history. Around her, daisies lean in like friends who've always known her. Not far away, nestled between rosemary stalks and fresh sage, a trio of tiny homes stand proudly. Inverted flower pots become storybook cottages, each with painted windows and tiny wooden doors. One peeks out from ivy tendrils cascading like enchanted curls. The air hums softly with the buzz of bees, who seem to know this border is sacred, part herb bed, part fairy village. Deeper in the garden, another character rests under the hydrangeas. Her pot belly is dappled with dew, her smile painted with a childlike charm. She carries twig wings tied with string, a simple and sweet reminder that imagination needs no rules. The pathway that leads you past them is lined with painted pots, some with hand-drawn stars, others with silly peeking eyes. One even sprouts delicate wings of wire and gauze, catching sunlight just long enough to make someone smile. And maybe that's the real gift here, not perfection, not polish, but the joy of creating something kind, silly, gentle, from what most would toss away. So if you've got a tired old pot in your corner, give it a face, give it a name, and let it live again, right there in the quiet magic of your own back garden. There's something about a pig's face, round, curious, soft, that feels right at home in a garden. Perhaps it's the mischief. Perhaps it's the joy. But here, nestled into corners of porches and patios, these pig-faced pale planters do more than decorate. They invite smiles and spark ideas. In one scene, a single pink planter sits proudly on the brick patio, its belly full of basil and cherry tomatoes, both lush and lively. The snout is crafted from a protruding lid, and the ears, carefully cut from tin scraps, fan outward with whimsy. A galvanized watering can rests nearby like a faithful companion. Ivy trickles down the side wall, as if nodding approval to this little pig's culinary harvest. This one doesn't oink, it feeds. Further along a gravel path, a tidy lineup of silver pigs emerges from the soil like garden guardians. Each metal bucket-turned pig face is filled with kale and bright nasturtiums, ears painted maroon and noses perfectly placed. Above them, a cheerful wooden sign reads, OINK Garden, suggesting this may not just be a patch of plants, but a small community. One made from laughter, leftovers, and leafy greens. Elsewhere, tucked beside cobblestone and vines, 3 small pig pails sit side by side. They're not identical, one winks, one grins, one looks sleepily content. Inside, the colors burst, petunias, mint, alyssum. The paint chips slightly at the rim, and instead of flaws, they feel like freckles. Like memories from an old farmyard told in pastel. These planters are more than decor, they're a conversation between metal and soil, humor and harvest. Each one starts with a forgotten bucket or pail. Then comes a splash of pink, a snout, 2 googly eyes. A dash of creativity. And finally, something living. If you've ever stared at an old container and thought it was useless, maybe it was just waiting to be a pig. So look again, not with doubt, but with delight. And let your garden oink back. In gardens where joy is crafted by hand, this bench sits not just as furniture, but as a burst of laughter made solid. Look closely, its legs are no ordinary supports, but whimsically curved tires painted in bright cartoon grins. The yellow smiles greet morning sunshine like old friends, nestled in a lawn dotted with flowering shrubs and edged by playful stepping stones. A garden hose curves lazily through the grass, like a child's scrawl on a summer afternoon. Here, DIY isn't just about reuse, it's about character. With just reclaimed tires, a sturdy wooden plank, and a bit of outdoor paint, anyone can create something that welcomes smiles as much as it offers rest. Another corner whispers a different tale. Beneath a tree, flowers bloom atop tire creatures who seem mid-giggle. Orange, blue, and red tires peek out from the greenery, their wide eyes gleaming with mischief. Marigolds and lobelia spill over their heads like wild hair, while calendula lines the ground with golden cheer. It's as if a group of friendly garden sprites took a break from play to hold up a bench for you. Reusing tires this way isn't just practical, it transforms forgotten rubber into stories and faces that charm both adults and children alike. Then there's the boldest design of them all, tongue sticking out, pink and wide-eyed, tires with attitude turned into sturdy bench legs. Set against a backdrop of onions, beets, and a flaking white fence, the visual punch is unforgettable. These are benches with personality, daring you to sit, smile, and maybe giggle a little. The message is clear: garden decor doesn't have to be serious to be impactful. Each of these designs is a gentle nudge. What you throw away might just become the soul of your garden. You don't need perfection. Just a little paint, some old tires, and the willingness to play. There's a quiet kind of magic in giving forgotten things a second life. At first glance, they were just discarded jugs, some cracked, some cloudy with time. But under curious hands and a few strokes of vivid paint, they became something else entirely, totems of color, joy, and backyard spirit. In the hush of early evening, as sunlight filters warm and low across the patio, these handmade towers cast soft shadows along the path. They line the garden edges like cheerful guardians, each one stacked from mismatched plastic bottles turned into colorful centuries. Red melts into yellow, blue slips into white, and playful faces peek out from pastel towers. A small jug with a spout even cradles a bit of water, just enough for a bird to stop and sip beneath the basil. The designs are simple, tribal swirls, dots, chevrons, but in their simplicity lies their charm. Some mimic ceramic, with cracked texture paint and weather-worn finishes. Others stay bold and loud, painted in ombre stripes like popsicles on a summer day. None of them are perfect, and that's precisely the point. They were made with care, not precision, with heart, not instructions. If you look closely, you'll notice the rhythm of their placement. A jug here to mark the turn in a garden bed. Another stands tall near a fire pit, catching golden hour light in a way that makes its colors hum. This isn't just decoration. It's personality. It's play. And best of all, it's possible for anyone. You don't need art school or power tools. Just a few bottles, a splash of paint, a bit of imagination, and maybe the willingness to see beauty where most would only see trash. Because sometimes, a garden doesn't grow only from soil, it grows from stories. Somewhere between whimsy and wisdom, these owl-faced buckets stand like sentinels of joy in the herb garden, wide-eyed, brightly feathered, and utterly charming. It's the kind of detail you only notice when you slow down long enough to smell the basil and watch the mint stir in the breeze. And when you do, you're greeted not just by plants, but by a family of quiet guardians, made not from stone or ceramic, but from trash turned treasure. At first glance, the red and orange buckets with cartoon eyes might seem playful, a child's idea of a scarecrow. But with every closer look, you begin to see something deeper. In one corner, a faded pale reborn as a hand-painted owl with forked feet sits among sage and chives, its eyes crafted from bottle caps, its beak from a bent spoon. In another frame, owls wink, frown, or peer through painted spectacles. Each bucket bears a distinct character, a little mischievous, a little wise, but all quietly proud of their new purpose. They're mounted on weather-worn wood or metal stakes, standing above neat beds of herbs, parsley and mint, lavender and dill. Their painted feathers glow in the sun, some in bold sunset gradients, others in aged, earthy tones. It's a small thing, really, buckets that would have ended up in the bin now bringing laughter and color into a patch of green. What's lovely is how achievable it all feels. Anyone with a brush, an old bucket, and a few minutes of spare time could make one. Maybe not perfect, but perfectly theirs. That's the beauty of it, imperfection with personality. So if your garden feels too quiet, maybe what it's missing isn't another plant, but a story. A painted bucket. A spoon-beaked owl. A reason to pause and smile. There's something undeniably charming about a garden that doesn't take itself too seriously. Here, among the rows of marigolds and lavender, a parade of duck-shaped planters waddle cheerfully along the path, each one hand-cut from old tires, painted in a patchwork of bright yellows, sky blues, and grassy greens. Their round eyes and curved orange beaks radiate a cartoonish joy, as if they've broken free from a children's storybook to live under the open sky. These duck sculptures aren't just adorable, they're an invitation to play. Some wear bottle cap hats, others boast painted-on lashes, and a few have little wings fashioned from cut rubber panels, feathered just enough to catch the morning light. Whether placed in uniform lines or clustered like a whimsical family reunion, they turn an ordinary flower border into a celebration. Daisies, calendula, alyssum, and petunias bloom beside them like confetti tossed during a joyful march. What makes this DIY so rewarding is how approachable it is. Old tires become a canvas. With just a few cuts and a splash of paint, what once might have cluttered a roadside now breathes new life as garden art. You don't need perfection, just a bit of humor, color, and the willingness to try. Try starting with one duck. Choose a pastel for softness or a bright tone for bold charm. Add a planter bowl inside or leave it open as a quirky sculpture. Line them near a pathway, under a vine-draped pergola, or beside your smallest flower bed, and you'll see how even a single upcycled creation can transform the mood of a space. In a world often rushing toward sleek and serious, this little duck parade reminds us, your garden can laugh too. In a quiet corner where laughter lingers in painted smiles, a garden has found its guardians. These aren't your typical scarecrows or statues, they're jug-faced watchers, crafted from discarded containers, now brought to life with hand-painted expressions. One grins with a wicked wink, another gasps as if it just saw a squirrel do something scandalous, while a third looks far too relaxed to be on duty. But all of them stand proudly among rows of spinach, lettuce, and budding onions, a cheerful crowd of characters watching over the growth like old friends. The charm lies not only in their faces but in the simplicity of their creation. Old jugs, rinsed and repurposed, have been given new stories with a little acrylic paint and a touch of imagination. Mounted on garden poles or settled gently at the base of raised beds made from pallet wood or reclaimed bricks, each piece becomes a moment of joy for anyone passing by. It's art you can laugh with, and it makes gardening feel less like a chore and more like a shared inside joke with your soil. If you're wondering whether this idea is just whimsical or actually useful, here's the secret: these little jug faces do more than entertain. They subtly act as soft deterrents to birds, their animated faces creating just enough movement and contrast to confuse curious beaks. Plus, for families with children, they turn weeding into a storytelling session. "Let's check on Sleepy Pete and Surprised Sally," you'll say, and suddenly your spinach patch becomes an enchanted village of vegetable protectors. In a world where beauty often comes from the shelves of a store, this garden proves that the most delightful magic grows from what others throw away. A little humor, a little paint, and a patch of soil, that's all it takes to make a garden that not only feeds the body, but brightens the spirit too. Somewhere between laughter and tide, where the garden meets imagination, a tiny seaside village springs to life, not with wood and stone, but with rope, shells, and painted smiles. These aren't just planters. They're cheerful storytellers born from discarded bottles, each one repurposed with a touch of whimsy and a sailor's charm. The morning sun catches the twinkle of their googly eyes and polished seashell cheeks. The striped crew on the wooden shelf, blue and white like waves in summer, grin under tufts of succulent hair. Their rope pigtails sway in the breeze as if giggling at a secret joke shared between plants and sea air. Around them, grains of sand and pieces of driftwood tell the story of shores long wandered, bringing coastal calm into a backyard filled with warmth. Nearby, an old trellis holds the quieter bunch, bottles turned upside down, painted with soft turquoise and faded tan, their faces frozen in comedic disbelief or bashful blinks. Shells crown their heads like beach tiaras. From their necks spill the wild curls of thyme and ivy, draping downward like seaweed reaching for home. The wood frame creaks gently in the breeze, and for a moment, the whole row seems to sigh together, content, alive. And then there's the captain. Painted in navy blues with his curled mustache and button eyes, he stands upright and proud, guarding the deck of your patio with a rosemary plume growing where his hat once was. Behind him, wind chimes knock gently in a rhythm that sounds like laughter between waves. A net hangs nearby, not to trap fish, but to catch memory. To create these is to breathe new life into plastic, trash, once forgotten, now grinning proudly in the sun. You don't need much. Just a bit of paint, rope, a few shells collected on quiet walks, and a willingness to see the joyful soul in discarded things. And maybe, just maybe, your garden will start telling its own seaside story too. There's a quiet kind of joy in watching color move with the wind. In tiny gardens where space is precious and every inch matters, even the smallest bit of whimsy can feel like magic. Here, along a humble wooden fence, bottle-top spinners dance in cheerful rhythm, repurposed from plastic waste into blooming bursts of energy. Some spin wildly, catching the light like wildflowers in a breeze, while others sway lazily, like they're lost in thought. Each piece tells its own story. A soda bottle becomes a sunflower. A milk jug transforms into a swirling pinwheel. Painted caps become golden centers, holding together petals cut and curled with care. Along the spinach beds and marigold patches, these spinners don't just decorate, they ward off birds, entertain children, and spark the kind of curiosity that makes gardening feel less like a chore and more like play. There's a small green spinner tied to a bamboo stick near the kale patch, its translucent blades glittering in the morning sun. From afar, it might look like store-bought art, but up close, you'll see the care in every cut and the memory of what it once was. And then there's the playful row of painted lids, stars, zigzags, polka dots, all turning in tandem beside blooming zinnias and rows of baby carrots. Just nearby, a pair of rubber boots waits quietly, as if the child who wore them might return at any moment, ready to marvel at the spinning flowers. And in the late afternoon, as the sun slips through tree branches, the whole fence comes alive with color and shadow. The breeze carries movement, and with it, a reminder, beauty doesn't need to cost much. It only needs a little time, a dash of paint, and the will to turn trash into delight. Try it yourself. Start with one bottle. Let the wind do the rest.